We're going to 1991, baby! Kick it! Hey, thanks for clicking on this video. We're going to do a review for Lollapalooza 1, 1991. What a year that was. Quick shout out to the Zepp Pearl channel. He does these great things where he talks about a record and then the concert he went to see on that tour of the record. It's a very cool thing. He's done a lot of them from Styx to Pearl Jam. Great. I'll leave a link in this video's description for his channel. Go check out. There's so many great vinyl and music channels on YouTube. Why would you have the need to watch anything else? So let's get started real quick. Let's set the tone of the concert. For many of you watching it, maybe you remember, maybe you went to that first Lollapalooza when it was still a traveling show. Maybe you're younger and you have no idea what 1991 is. So we went through 8 years of Ronald Reagan as our president, and that led into his vice president, George Bush Sr., taking over. So very corporate-y, you know, America has been kind of transformed into this very corporate, greedy kind of mentality. Of course, today's mentality is not that great either, but so kind of picture that. So whenever you have that kind of, you know, just say no to drugs and church is good, you have the counterculture going, wait, and let's make up our own minds about things here. You know, you had the Vietnam War, which had been 20 years prior to that. That ended in 1973, but still you have this kids growing up and learning about that in school, so we're not trusting that our leaders in every conflict or war we go into is right. There's not a lot of trust in the government, not a lot of trust in what American values are at that time. So a perfect time, you know, for a counterculture to kind of go. And I say that a lot, the counterculture, because at this time, Lollapalooza isn't a big trademark. It's not a big corporate thing. It's not Perry Farrell was still a dreadlock wearing kind of, was he a drug addict weirdo who sings for this band? Mainstream is so far removed from Lollapalooza at this point in 1991. It's pitiful. For instance, I went to see the show in August 3rd, 1991. The top song that day was Everything I Do For You by Bryan Adams. So that's, you know, the feel-good, slow song. I think that was in Robin Hood, you know, I love you, I'll do anything for you. That's the kind of mood the America's feeling right now. And in that summertime, the biggest hit was Summertime from Slap Happy Will Smith and DJ Jazzy Jeff, Fresh Prince. So that's kind of music hitting the charts. None of the bands on Lollapalooza were receiving major media radio airplay. It was a very alternative thing back then. Nirvana hadn't released Nevermind yet. Green Day hadn't released even Kerplunk yet. So alternative music was just a thing way to the side. I had just discovered a lot of that stuff maybe about a year prior or so. A friend turned me on to this band called Jane's Addiction, and I bought Nothing Shocking cassette tape. This is the cassette tape there. And I had learned about indie rock, college rock. The previous year that Chicago had a local punk rock scene, starting to get into Naked Ray Gun, Pegboy, Screeching Weasel, Sludgeworth, and just exploding my head into what I was brought up on classic rock, heavy metal, into all these new kinds of music. You know, The Cure, The Smiths, Psychedelic Furs, just is all this kind of new music is hitting me. Indie rock, like Super Chunk. So it's just kind of a new way that I'm looking out to see what else is out there. And I heard, I don't know even how, if it was an ad in a local music paper about Lollapalooza coming through later in the year, but late 1990, early 91, I mean, I'm trying to discover as much stuff as I can. Industrial music, being in Chicago, Ministry, Revco, Palehead, just trying to get into everything like that. So Perry Farrell and I think MTV's 120 Minutes was starting to talk a little bit about it. You weren't seeing any of these groups' videos being played very much. You know, it was very late at night, maybe on 120 Minutes. This guy from Jane's Addiction band is going to go out. The band has already released 2 albums, very successful in the alternative world, and they're going to go out with a bang. The group's already had it. Drugs, egos. They don't want to be a band anymore. No more Jane's Addiction. Let's just go out with one more tour. Let's make it a festival. Sounds interesting. I liked Jane's Addiction a lot at the time. I'm going to go see them. Then they started announcing the opening bands and all that. As we get closer, they put tickets on sale, I go to my local Carson Perry Scott, which is like a, I don't know, like a Kmart, not really like a Target, but more like clothes and jewelry kind of stuff. You go upstairs and you go stand in line to get yourself a ticket. At that point, I am paying around 23 bucks, which would be about 50 bucks today. You're not going to go to a festival today for 50 bucks. Again, the corporate greed really takes over these festivals. This was still when it was kind of alternative. The people that were interested in it were still being teased at school for being weirdos. You know, some had tattoos, some had two-toned hair, some had piercings. Oh, you freaks, you weirdos, you weirdos. It was not the cool kid type festival that it is today. So I'm going into August just looking forward to this festival. I'm working weeknights at UPS, wrapping up community college. I lost my father like a year and a half prior, so my head is like, you know, I'm trying to grow up and be an adult, trying to search for who I am. I'm just kind of mad at the world. I don't want to listen to Poison and Crew and party all weekend kind of stuff. I'm kind of in a depressed state of mind, you know, so I needed that alternative music because that spoke to me a lot more than the stuff that I was previously listening to. I go with my friend John, who I'll include that picture here of John. Also, the girl in the picture was breaking my heart at the moment, so I really needed that alternative music. The stupid hairstyles I had. And so that's what I'm packing. That's what I'm bringing to Lollapalooza to hang out with my friend John. We go, my car overheats a little bit, and I let it rest on the side of the road. We start it back up. We get to the World Amphitheater here in Tinley Park, Illinois. The show starts around 2 o'clock. I believe we get there a little afternoon. I'm always anal about getting places early and, you know, just enjoying the crowd and seeing people filter in. Of course, it's a bunch of young kids. It's not, like I said, it's not the cool kids yet. This is Lollapalooza 1. This is just when the freaks kind of knew about what was happening here. And I'm just at home. I'm amazed at how many freaky little kids there are coming out to this show. You feel like an outcast in every class you take in school, or you walk around town and you just feel like you're not fitting in too well. And here you are in an amphitheater-sized outdoor stadium with people that kind of look like you and act like you, and you're like, wow, I'm kind of home here. You know, so it was very cool feeling. First band on was Henry Rollins. I knew him kind of, maybe he sung in Black Flag. He's this punk rock icon. I don't know. I'm not too sure about Henry Rollins at that point. Let's see. Henry Rollins was 30 at the time. He was in Black Flag and then Rollins Band. Later in that year, he would see his friend Joe Cole murdered in front of him in his California home. So sad stuff for Henry. But at this show, he is pumping it out. I remember he's just wearing black shorts, had his shirt off. He's got all his big tattoos. He's all strong. He's just screaming. He did around 6 or 7 songs, and he's just, every song is angry. I didn't know any of the songs at the time, but I was like, wow, this guy's really pissed off, and what a perfect way to start this festival day of events. Because like I said, I'm not in the greatest moods. You know, you're like trying to discover who you are as an adult, and life sucked right then. But so yeah, I'm all about Henry Rollins being angry and all that. He goes in, next band. Here's my shirt I actually bought at that event, Lollapalooza. So Henry Rollins is first, next the Butthole Surfers. Their song, I believe they were playing on their 5th record. They were touring for their 5th record. Their hit single was Hurdy Gurdy Man, which is a cover song. Was being playing a little bit on MTV, Alternative Nation, 120 Minutes, like obscure late at night TV shows was playing it. And I just thought they were a crazy, crazy band. I bought a Butthole Surfers shirt, but that has since been ruined. But so they were the second band on. Up next was Ice-T and Body Count, which is a heavy metal band that he created. They came out and just kicked some butt. Ice-T wasn't the Ice-T we know today, where he's an actor and he's this and that. He was just known as being a really scary rapper dude, and he was out there angry and screaming at all the little white kids. So it was very fun stuff. After that, 9 Inch Nails. Now, at this point, Trent Reznor and all them, 9 Inch Nails had one record up, Pretty Hate Machine. Why am I putting love in it? There's no love in it. There's no love here. It's pretty and it's hateful. Head Like a Hole was the big song off of it. I was into industrial music for the last 2.5 years because Ministry had released A Mind Is a Terrible Thing to Taste, and it was great. Industrial music was becoming from let's dance with a weird electronic to let's get a little angry now. And, you know, he had Skinny Puppy, groups like that. So Nine Inch Nails was exploding within that scene and starting to take over, not the pop charts by any means, but had like a whole, starting to become a pretty popular song. So to see them that early on, and they destroyed the keyboards and the drums. You know, who knows if the keyboards were actually the real keyboards they were using, or just like stunt keyboards. But it was awesome looking. Put on a hell of a show. I do recall him just jumping on the keyboards and throwing them around, and you know, there's a pit and a lawn. I did have cheap seats way up in the 200s right before the lawn started. I remember John and we were hanging out in seats for a while, then we'd go up in the lawn and hang out for a while with people and crawl back to our seats. After Nine Inch Nails was Living Colour, they had 2 records at this time. They were touring for Time's Up, which came out the previous year. I was a big fan of Cult of Personality. So Living Colour, back to Living Colour. This is their record, Vivid. They had a record after that, Time's Up, they were touring for. But off of Vivid, of course, Cult of Personality, Open Letter to a Landlord, one of the strongest songs lyrically. I just thought it was great. I really liked Living Colour, and I was really happy that they were included on this Lollapalooza tour. Very happy about that. Love that. Don't remember too much of their set at all. After that, the evening started to come. It started to get to be the later in the evening. You know, we're already 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bands in. Comes Siouxsie Sue and the Banshees is next. I've always heard of her. She was somebody like a Kate Bush that I didn't really own anything at the time, but I always heard of her. She had her 10th album out, Superstitious, featuring Kiss Them For Me, which was released just the spring before Lollapalooza 1. And I tell you, that Kiss Them For Me song was being played a lot. I really liked it. It had a good hook. It's not on this one. This is a bunch of her early singles. Siouxsie Sue, of course, she's awesome. So it was great. It was good music. Starting to dance, starting to feel it, starting to hop some rows. You know, a lot of the other kids, some are already passed out at this point, let's say. The lawn was kind of crazy. And it gets where you're seeing Jane's Addiction. And this was before, like, reunion tours, reunion of reunion tours. So when a band called it quits and says, you know, we're going to stop playing after this tour, back then you kind of took it more serious. Like, oh, okay, this, unless that group was The Who, you took it serious. Like, oh, this is it. These guys really don't care to play with each other, and I better go see them. So I'm like, man, this is going to be my one and only time seeing this band that I love. Wow, I better, you know, enjoy this experience. And they come out, and you know, it's just playing everything off of Nothing Shocking, pretty much. Playing everything off of Ritual, Habitual. I have the, you know, Been Caught Stealing was a huge song. It's one of my least favorite songs, actually, of them. Classic Girl, with his ex-girl there. And one of my favorite songs, I always say it's the alternative version of Stairway to Heaven, is 3 Days. And hopefully everyone's heard 3 Days. If you haven't, it's a phenomenal piece of work, I tell you. And hearing them play that live, I was like, oh, hell yeah. It was euphoric. It was, I found my audience. I found a new way to kind of see the world. I can't underestimate how, like, it was still an alternative little part of everything, but feeling a part of that alternative part was awesome. And that's the experience of Lollapalooza 1. It was on a tour. I think we were like the 8th stop or so for the little tour. It was a traveling show at this point. Nowadays, of course, being in Chicago, it is a stationary event. It comes to Chicago every August. I have not gone to any of the ones ever since they stopped traveling and just are here in Chicago. I went to Lollapalooza 1, I went to Lollapalooza 2, 92, and I went to Lollapalooza 3 in 93. I've not had the urge to do anything from that on because alternative music kind of became mainstream in a way, and I just needed that festival to kind of be an alternative to everything. But there just never is enough groups that I think it's worthwhile. And after you see the first 3, which I may do a review of year 2 and year 3, but after you see those first 3 with groups, you know, the groups I saw then, you know, and I'm also seeing Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, Ministry, Chili Peppers, Primus, seeing those bands in their prime, nothing's ever going to compare to it. So That was great. Well, I hope you like going back in a little time warp with me. Of course, James Addiction, I'll show you because this is the final channel. Alive at 25, Ritual de la Habitual. This came out 2017, the anniversary tour for this. I did not hear about this tour. I would have loved to go on it somehow. I don't know if they stopped in Chicago or not, but I got the vinyl. So that's the important thing. In life, you always want to get the vinyl. Alright, like I said, hope you like this video. If you have any questions about Lollapalooza 1, leave it in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.